Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. I am James Jones, and I'm joined today by the returning Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
Mr. John Lindemann.
Great to be here, James.
And Mr. Guillaume Bayette.
Good evening.
It is September 25th, 2025, and this is episode 945. John, did you enjoy my LCD watch I made for you? I hope it held to your standards.
I saw it. I liked it. It was good.
That took way the fuck too long.
Yeah, you were. I mean, you do what. that's one way of putting it. Yeah, you do what you do.
I cooked. I spent way too long putting that thing together. I can't remember what Tiger Electronics game I used for the background, but I had to hand draw what a me would look like on an LCD screen. So that was I joked about this last week. I am learning to draw through an exercise that I designed so I wouldn't have to learn to draw. This is a problem. This is a failure of vision, I suppose. But we're not here to talk about watches. I don't think. I don't know. Listener mail might get us there. Who could say? We're here to talk about video games. It's TGS this week, and there's been some news that's come out of TGS. We're not really going to dive too deep into it. There's a little bit of news in the second segment we'll get to, specifically dealing with Nintendo of America. But one piece of news we are going to deal with, because I have new business on it, is Nintendo Mobile isn't dead. They announced a new game. I think this is the first time Nintendo Mobile's put out a new game in years, if you don't count them essentially relaunching Animal Crossing as a non-live service game. And it's Fire Emblem Shadows. Now, if you're saying, wait, doesn't Fire Emblem already have a mobile game? Why, yes, it does. Fire Emblem Heroes. Is that game still going? Why, yes, it is. But it's also like a decade old. And the meta is really complicated. And getting into that game now is probably not very easy. So, and it's successful. So they made another Fire Emblem mobile game. This one is different. This one is kind of interesting. So the concept, at least, is interesting. I'm not sure about the execution. We'll get to that. The idea is that it is a 3-player online game where, unlike Fire Emblem Combat, where you control what characters do and do tactic stuff, the characters on the screen move on their own. You have a character that you pick to play, and there's items you can get from loot boxes to sort of boost their performance, and they level up and all that stuff. So that's where your RPG mechanics come in. And then there's other characters you can unlock as you go. Okay, all makes sense. But the characters move on their own. So essentially there's a turn for you and a turn for the enemy. And it's kind of active time battle-y. There's a bar that burns down, and your characters will move as long as that bar has time left in it, and then at the end of the bar, if they're standing next to an opponent, they attack. Or if they're standing in range of an opponent, they attack. If they're like an archer unit, they can fire from distance. Your control is limited exclusively to the use of spells / skills. So around the edge of the map, there are icons for your character's spells / skills. And they're on a cooldown timer. And you can grab one and drop it. And some skills have area of effect, where they will injure or heal everyone in the area. So you got to make sure you don't hit your allies, or you got to make sure you don't hit the enemies if you're trying to heal. There's some tactics based around types, the weapons triangle stuff. But your job, essentially, is limited to using those skills. Like I said, the characters move on their own, they pick the target on their own, they attack on their own. You don't have any say in it. And that might seem kind of weird, because how it starts out is there's 3 of your characters on screen in a room, and that is literally a room, as the term they use for it. And there are some number of enemies, and your characters trade turns with the enemy. Like I said, when it's your turn, all your characters move at once. Attacking, and you using skills. Enemies have the same kind of spells. And you're trying to essentially wipe them out before they wipe you out. Now, that seems pretty boring. But the side hustle going on here is that of the 3 characters on your side, 2 of them are servants of the light, or however the game calls it. but one of them is service of the dark god Fenrir, a wolf god or something, who will grant your wish in exchange for your soul. And so during the phase against the enemies, the player who has embraced the dark, embraced shadow, as it says in the same Fire Emblem Shadows, can surreptitiously try to damage their party members, but hopefully avoid arousing suspicion. Because after that initial wave of the battle is over and all the AI characters are dead, the two characters who aren't shadow aligned, who are light aligned, pick who they think is the shadow player. It's basically Mafia. And so the shadow player has the advantage if they can do damage before the first round of fighting ends, because it means when it's their turn in the second round, it will be easier for them to do what they're setting out to actually do, which is defeat the light side players. And so more enemies will spawn, but now that character will transform and they have access to their full complement of skills. They're stronger than the normal light players, and they can essentially act as a boss. Their job is to eliminate the enemies. The perk of going undiscovered is that the good guys only get one revive. So if one of them went down during the initial round, that's it. You only have to wipe them out once. Every good guy who correctly picked, and there's only two of them, who correctly picked who the bad guy was, who the shadow player was, gets 2 revives. So if they were knocked out in the first round, they're revived. And then in the second round, they'll have to be taken out twice. That's sort of the advantage for being spotted, or not being spotted / spotting the enemy. So that's basically the mechanics of the game. It's clear as mud, I know. John, I'm going to ask, did you follow the point here?
I don't know. Fire Emblem just generally confuses the hell out of me anyways.
But that's the thing. This isn't Fire Emblem. Like, it's got the name on it, and it looks like it, but it's real-time combat that you don't control, so you can't tell your character to go attack someone on the weapons triangle that's the right target for that.
Which is very on Fire Emblem.
Very on Fire Emblem. And then after that initial round of combat is over, one player turns on the other two and attacks them and tries not to be discovered before that moment. So that also means, if you haven't figured it out, this is an online game. So you're playing in real time with 2 other players. Semi-real time. Which might be why you have so little control. That way they're not trying to figure out, like with rollback and stuff, who did what. And because the turns alternate, they don't really have to worry about it then either. But I've played through the tutorial, which is 3 or 4 missions and a bunch of story. And I've played 2 rounds against humans. 2? I'm going to say 1 and a round against air quote humans that I think are tutorial humans. Officially humans, but in reality, probably not. Canonical humans, there we go. We'll call it that. And I'm just not connecting with this. Like, there's some neat character designs. There's some good art. The cinematics are way over the top. There's a song that I'm going to have to figure out how to get a hold of it because it's good and it'll be a good ending music theme for us one day. But you have so little control. So if you use a skill, let's say you use a spell, there's a 5-second burn down before you can use any spells again. So you really can do nothing for the next 5 seconds. And you can use spells when it's not your turn. You can do whatever. If you are KO'd, it's a 10-second burn down to use spells, because you could still use spells while you're KO'd. In fact, the rounds I played against a human that I'm fairly confident were actually humans, I played on the light side and we won. But I was KO'd. I got the kill, even though I was KO'd, because I used a spell while I was KO'd to finish off the enemy, to finish off the hostile player, while he was engaged with the other light side player. And you get to pick which side you want to be on before you go into lobby, or you can just say, put me in whatever's available. And that gets you in as fast as possible. I think you might also get a little bit of extra bonus for doing that. There's a premium mode that you can pay for. Fire Emblem Heroes has this as well. That gives you access to additional dailies. So like that's how you get rewards. There are dailies. So like the daily today was like play 2 matches. There were a couple other dailies. I can't remember what they were. I got 2 out of the 3 in my first playthrough. Let's put it that way. Not super hard to reach, but I suspect they probably get more difficult as time goes on. But the rewards I got weren't very good either. There's a story mode I haven't spent a lot of time with that advances the story of this prince who's been run out of his kingdom by an empire invading. Stop me if you've heard this before. And that is where you unlock a lot of your characters, I believe, the playable characters. And then I guess you just have a built character that you take into battle when you play with, other people online. I only have one character right now, so I don't really have a great feel for, what I can do with those characters just yet. But yeah, I'm just not feeling it. Like it feels like it's very passive in a way that I'm not enjoying because I don't have any real control over what characters do. The amount of tactical decisions I'm making is quite small. What spell to use and when to use it. And my only resource there, like there's no mana or anything. My only resource there is the 5 seconds I'm going to have to wait to use the next spell. Which doesn't feel like I have a ton of agency. And the idea of the fake ally hasn't really panned or played out to be that much fun. Most of the time, now granted, I've at most played with 2 humans at this point, or 2 rounds of humans at this point, but it may have only been 1. They didn't really care if they got discovered. They just tried to KO both of the light side players in the first round. Now, what's weird is if you do that, I'm pretty sure the dark side player still has to play because in the tutorial you have to play dark side 1 time. And I just immediately KO'd the light side players while we were still supposed to be allies. And then it's just like, okay, you win, congratulations. So that might be the better way to go about it anyway as a dark side player. Like, who gives a shit if they figure out who you are? Like, make them do something about it. But I don't know. It just feels off in a way that I'm struggling to describe. I get why they felt like they probably needed a new game. Fire Emblem Heroes, I want to say, came out in 2017? So like, or maybe more than that. I think it had its 10-year anniversary recently. And I got to imagine joining a mobile game with gacha elements 10 years into its lifespan is not easy. So I can see wanting to launch another one. I just think this one's not very good. Like they didn't want to pull down Heroes because it's still successful. Whereas a lot of these mobile games will replace one mobile game with another one that's similar. I guess they wanted to leave that one up because it's still successful. They didn't want to kill the golden goose. So they just made a different Fire Emblem game, and I don't think they need to worry about whether or not they should kill this one because I don't think it's going to be very successful. I think it kind of sucks. But I'll play a little bit more before I make the call. Like I said, I've only played 2 real rounds, and only one, I think, was against a human. It's possible the other one was, but I'm more dumbfounded by the lack of noise around its release. So, Nintendo announced this pretty quietly. They had a direct just the other week. They could have announced it then. They could have done like, oh, hi, we've got a mobile game coming. I'm guessing it was time to launch around TGS. It might have been announced as part of the TGS news cycle, but I think the thing to keep in mind is TGS isn't necessarily creating news the way it has historically. And honestly, the only reason I knew about the game was because people in our Discord were talking about how much they didn't like it, which is not a good way to be introduced to the product. I'm surprised Nintendo launched a mobile game at all. Like, it felt like Nintendo Mobile was just playing out the string until Fire Emblem Heroes finally shut down. But I guess not. Now, obviously, Intelligent Systems had a hand in making this game. I hope they reconsider some decisions in it. I think the social deduction element, as Nintendo keeps referring to it, is very weak. I don't think the penalties and rewards are high enough for discovery. Like, there's effectively no penalty for failure to discover. It's a lack of reward. I feel like it would be better if you've got a 50-50 shot. I feel like the odds need to be more stacked against you for getting it wrong. Like, that's the thing. You have a 50-50 shot because you know you're not the traitor. Because unless you woke up in the middle of a session, you know what you picked. So, if the odds are that, like, generous, 50-50, I think generous is the right word. I feel like and it's that hard to hide action from the other players. Like, if I attack you with a spell, you're gonna notice. Probably. I feel like it creates a situation where the imbalance is super high. I feel like the penalty for failure to discover needs to be higher. I was successful in my run, but it was largely out of my control. Like, it felt like I just more or less got lucky. I had a little hand because I played the right spell a couple times. I would like to see hiding your identity be more highly rewarded, because it's very hard to do that while also still trying to inflict damage so the next round is easier. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. No, I think that's pretty much it. This is a game that I don't understand its reason.
How monetized is it?
Like I said, there is a subscription that gives you access to the premium.
Okay.
The premium dailies.
What a weird choice.
I'm sure there's gotcha pulls. I just haven't gotten deep enough to see them yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very weird. Like, why not try a different franchise? I mean, I guess because it's Intelligent Systems and they wanted to make another mobile game. That's my guess.
Yeah.
I already feel like it's pretty reasonable to guess that the team making what's the name of the Fire Emblem they announced during the Direct?
Fortune's Weave.
Fortune's Weave. This already feels like a Three Houses thing where Intelligent Systems was involved, but not the primary development leads, because it looks very much Three Houses-y. But maybe they just got the message after fucking Engage. I don't know. But it feels like they could have announced this along with Fortune's Weave to give it extra attention. Instead, they just kind of dropped it into the ether. I don't know what they think the audience is for a mobile game launching in 2025 without horse girls, but I'm going to say it's probably less than they think that narrow band would want. So it's just weird choices all around with this thing. I'm very curious what their mid-range goal for it is. Like, what do they think this game can become? Because right now it feels very much like a shell of a full product. But again, I've only spent, an hour with it. So I'll have some more thoughts next week. I'll spend a little more time with it. But, Seren, who's basically been playing Fire Emblem Heroes since it launched, said she's already uninstalled it. Just not interested. So, not a great sign, but I'll stick with it for a little bit longer, see how I feel, and then I'll probably uninstall it too, because it takes up a shitload of space. You launch it, you download it, you launch it, it goes, hey, I need to download 195 megabytes. And it's like, yeah, sure, go do what you gotta do. You run a couple tutorials, and then it goes, hey, buddy, I need to download 350 megabytes. And I'm like, I thought we just did this. Okay. So, it takes up a good amount of space, too. Like, I might not keep it around for that reason as well. But we'll see. John, what are you up to?
I'm up to FC26 is what I'm up to. Back on that train. I was actually in the closed beta, which I, was sworn to secrecy. I did play that on the Switch while traveling.
Switch 1 or 2?
Switch 2.
Okay.
And really my only real Switch, it was hard to say, it was hard to get a real feel for the final game, playing it in a beta. But the one thing I would say that was Switch specific is that it definitely played better on a TV than in handheld mode. Handheld mode, it didn't play badly, but just the frame rate was noticeably slower, so the game felt slower. So I'm playing it mostly. I got it for PS5. But just in terms of features, well, first off, in terms of gameplay, it's been out for a week now, and so the community has had a chance to kind of sit there and evaluate it, right? And FC25, the community generally felt that game was a complete disaster. I mean, we're talking like, people are like, it's a 1 out of 10, a 2 out of 10. They hated it. The defense was terrible. There was a lot of things wrong with that game. But with this one, they're touting it as, oh, you know, we went back to the drawing board a little bit, and we're giving you what you wanted. Everything that you complained about, we're solving it. And people were like, yeah, right. This is Electronic Arts we're talking about, the worst company in the world. And to everyone's amazement, it actually is quite a bit better. Defense especially is a lot better because it actually requires skill. I mean, with FC25, generally the defense was so poor that people just said, even when you're playing other people, just let the AI defend, because everything else, any time you try to defend yourself, it's just way too unpredictable. So that was kind of one of the guidelines. And there were just certain things that were just really outright broken on defense. But this is a lot better, even though it is a lot harder. And I think the community is kind of split that way as well, where you have people who are like, I used to be really good on defense in FC25, and now I suck, so it needs to be tuned. And then you have people who say, well, that's just because you suck, and now you actually have to play defense, you have to switch characters properly, you have to get out ahead of plays, and all of that. And you kind of have to know what you were doing. You know, you have to know kind of where the play is going. And it rewards good defensive play, which is really, really good. Doesn't make online any easier. I can tell you that, you know, for some objectives, I was in early access, right? So, you know, the way they do it now is you can, if you get the ultimate edition of the game, you get like 6 or 7 days early access. So you get a week to kind of get out ahead of, I was mainly doing it. I mean, I'm not really a good online player, so I was mainly doing it to fulfill, you know, the objectives and the squad building challenges and stuff like that. Generally, all the stuff that you do to get more players, get card packs and stuff like that, like, you know, the kind of rewards that you can get. Just kind of getting a head start with that, and, you know, picking up some stuff from the transfer market, getting some players and getting, you know, some club paraphernalia and stuff like that, because you can get, like, you know, all the different badges and the different, you know, kits, uniforms, so on. So I was kind of doing all that. Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I really like the FC series. But some of the changes they made this year is, you know, along with the gameplay, which was absolutely required. And now things have shifted the other way, where people are thinking, we actually like this gameplay. So please, EA, don't listen to the people that are complaining and patch it out. Like, that's the fear. The fear has gone from, this is going to be terrible at launch, and hopefully they patch it later, because that's what FC25 was, to, oh my god, this is actually good at launch. We don't even know how to feel about this. Please, EA, don't screw it up. So the FC community is pretty much just constantly in angst, either one way or the other. So, but at least this is a good kind of angst to have. So what they've done is they've added quite a few more tournaments. They have more daily tournaments and stuff like that, which they didn't really have too much of before. I mean, it has all the usual stuff. You know, it has like a manager mode, has, you know, a season mode where you can play a team for a whole season. The clubs mode, which is where you can build a player, and then you can kind of start a guild kind of thing, almost like the equivalent of a guild in like an MMO sort of thing, where you can, you know, start a club and you can have other people, like theoretically, if you had, you know, other people, friends that played the game, they could join your club and you could play other teams, other clubs. They've expanded that a little bit. They have more, last year they started having player archetypes. So, you know, like a type of player, like, so you can choose the type of player you have, whether it's, you know, a striker or a center back or a midfielder or whatever, but you could choose kind of the type of player they are, just in terms of like heavily defensive or offensive or stuff like that. And now they've kind of divided that into more kind of templates, and you get rewarded, like, so, you know, the player that I rolled is a striker, and so I chose his kind of template to be finisher, And the way that affects gameplay is when you play in games, you really get rewarded for actually doing what your role says you have to do. So I'm a striker who is a finisher, so you get more experience and level up your character by scoring goals. Now that's not earth-shattering, but it's very easy to just, even if you're a striker, maybe if your striker isn't that good at character, to kind of just lay back because other people are going to score goals, but this kind of forces you to, it rewards you really for learning your role, which is good. So I think they've made a lot of kind of common sense changes, and everybody's sort of shocked that they've actually made these changes because it just seems like in past years, EA has never really listened to what anybody had to say. But yeah, along with the good, you still have like the UI is still kind of glitchy. Not as many crashes as last year. I don't think the game has crashed on me once, actually. Amazingly enough, which as I say that out loud, that's completely shocking because it used to crash probably about every 2 hours on me for an FC25. But there's still some UI glitches. But they just released a patch actually yesterday, I think, which was addressing feedback from the closed beta. So they have yet to actually go and kind of hear the community feedback and then incorporate that into the game, like the launch feedback. They have yet to incorporate that into the game and patch it out. But it's much better. So I would say if you are on the fence about FC26 so far, EA has knocked it out of the park as much as you would expect them to. Certainly very, very surprising that the game is in as good of a state as it is, because usually these things are just copy and paste, cookie cutter. Yeah, like we're to the point where, especially between FC24 and FC25, where I'm sitting there loading up FC25 and I am literally seeing the same bugs in FC25 that were in FC24 at launch and subsequently were patched out. They were reintroduced in FC25, and it's like, really, guys? Jeez. But yeah, so I would say, of course they don't have crossplay. I really wish they did, because the beta was actually funny because I got into the Switch beta first, which I thought was weird, and I was thinking, well, does this mean that things like, because in the closed beta, it was like if you complete the season pass, and of course this has season pass and it has a premium pass, that kind of thing, and it has that seasonal model where a season lasts 40 days or something, and so you have to get everything done. You unlock a bunch of stuff, either things that you can use in clubs mode, or you unlock players. And then, there's a normal track for the season pass, and then there's a premium track that you can unlock. And with the ultimate edition, the premium pass for the first season is unlocked automatically, and you get some extra points that you can spend in the store and stuff like that, which I usually hoard and typically, spend later on in the season. But the one cool thing that they didn't do last time was I had some FC points that I didn't spend in FC24. And I'm glad I didn't touch them. Sorry, in FC25. And so I'm glad I didn't touch them. I just kind of left them there, and I was figuring at some point I'll come back and I'll just burn them because they're useless. When you install FC26, it actually asks you, hey, we noticed you have some points left in FC25. Do you want to migrate them over? You can do this one time. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was something that was unexpected. So I didn't have to burn them. I thought I would just have to go into FC25 and just like buy some BS uniforms that I would never play with or anything. So, but not the case. So now I have a little bit of a buffer in terms of FC points in FC26, which is remarkably fair from EA, which is not something I find myself saying about them really ever. So, but yeah, FC26. So far, so good. That's what I'll say.
Cool. Guillaume, you have a game that I wrote down as, quote, PAC-MAN, many other words also.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've been... so I played this a while ago, so it might be... it's not entirely fresh in my mind, but a while ago there was a sale, and I got PAC-MAN Mega Tunnel Battle Chomp Champs. So this is a game, if maybe you recall, that Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle was originally a Stadia game that was released in 2020, shut down when Stadia shut down, and then shortly after, well, like a few months after that, the Chomp Champs version came out for everything, for Switch, for Steam, Xbox, whatever. And this is as the name implies, a kind of a battle royale game, except not quite really, or at least not a competent one, unfortunately. You start the game in your own Pac-Man maze, and you go and you eat the dots and etc. And every once in a while, like at a kind of a set timer, these tunnels open up on the sides of the maze, and so you can go and invade someone else's maze. Up to 64 players can be playing at one time. So you can go invade their maze and go and, like, if you have eaten a power pellet and they haven't, you can go and, chomp them. You can eat all their ghosts. You can, make all the points that you want to make on their board. And then eventually, like the tunnels will close, they will reopen. You can go invade some other person's maze. And, the rules of the game are explained in a kind of a long tutorial, and they're still very unclear to me. But I did manage to grok that if you eat all the dots in your own maze, you get a speed boost. It is not clear to me if this speed boost is actually worth it as a strategy. I'm not sure if anything that I'm doing is really a good, valid strategy. Why? Because I'm not even sure that I've been playing with humans. So this game is, always online. It is cross-platform. The multiplayer is cross-platform. In theory, I should always be playing against humans. But in reality, it doesn't look like the game was popular enough for me to do that. But I really have no idea. The thing that makes me think I haven't played against real humans, for the most part, is that I haven't really lost a game. I always finish either first or second. The game counts both of those as basically winning. So, yeah, several games played in the, I forget what the modes are called, the non-ranked, basically, and the ranked. I made it to the bronze level in ranked, and I'm still not sure if I'm competing against real people. At least I'm not competing against competent Pac-Man playing ones. So it's all a little bit disappointing. Like, the fact is that I was planning on, like, maybe, like, once I level up again in ranked mode, I'm gonna face the champions, the Chomp Champs, as I assume they're called, and I'm gonna be finally having fun. But so that was like more than a month ago. I haven't really touched the game again because, like, the process of trying to level up, to keep winning, to level up, to rise in the ranked matches, it has been so boring. Because there's I don't have the feeling that anything I do matter. I'm just going ahead, playing Pac-Man decently, and that seems to be enough to just, crush the competition. So, it's not super fun. In addition to this is, it's got like a 3D polygonal look. The Pac-Man engine doesn't seem to be all quite, or the online, whatever, like this doesn't seem to be quite all there. Sometimes when you turn around, like you think that you're gonna eat a ghost, but you just go through it. Sometimes, or like another person, or like it seems to be able to eat all the dots anyway. Like, it doesn't go over dots, but like there's these weird kind of like, there should have been collision there, and it didn't happen. Like, what's going on here? So these instances happen way too often. And the game looks kind of a little bit crappy. But as you play, you can earn cosmetics, and so you can give Pac-Man your Klonoa hat, because of course there's a Klonoa hat, and various shades and whatever. You can do what you want. You can also turn the maze into, to have it have a pole position or whatever look, skin. None of this makes the game more fun. So it's sad. I guess there are a lot of very good and a lot of very bad Pac-Man games on the Switch, and unfortunately, that's one of the very bad ones.
I think you could just drop for the Switch. I think there's a long history of bad Pac-Man games.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of condemned to just go back to Championship Edition 2 forever. That's a good Pac-Man game. So I guess I'm going to keep playing that. And speaking, I guess, of good Pac-Man games, I have no interest in Pac-Man World 2 Repack. It's not really, it's not my thing. But I want to say that it got a rave review from John Reardon on Nintendo World Report, and the what do you call it? The subhead says "more beautiful than the day I lost you." So you can see that he was in his feelings when he wrote this review.
That's deep.
What?
Huh?
What?
More beautiful than the day I lost you?
I heard the words, but my brain has just tripped the switch somewhere, and it's do not inquire, do not inquire, and then my mouth's like, no, I need to inquire. What the fuck?
Well, I'm looking. I haven't read the full review. I'm kind of going over it now. The whole review is not this poetic, but yeah. I just wanted to let people know, if you're looking for a good Pac-Man game, apparently there's one that just came out. I'm not going to be playing it, but I know someone who is. So, I guess the other game that I've been playing is Pepper Grinder. Now, this game is several years old at this point, and we did talk on this podcast about when the demo came out, basically. Greg, did you play this, or no?
The demo, yes. I've not got round to the full game.
Right, so that's the thing. Right now, games are expensive. Switch 2 games are expensive. But what's not expensive is so many indie games that came out years ago on the Switch that are excellent and that are on deep discount. And so now's the time if you want to kind of make, if you want to hoard for the end of civilization, if you want to always have something to play before it all goes down to shit. Now's the time, I'm telling you. So I got Pepper Grinder at a very good price, and what a fun game! I remember saying this after playing the demo, and it remains true of the full game. It controls like butter, it's very smooth. There's this feeling that it's really using the 360 degrees that the stick allows. In Pepper Grinder, of course, you're controlling this little girl who just finds this drill, and so you can drill through various elements of the stages. And usually, it's a platforming game, but you can jump, but it's a very small jump. Mostly, you're going to be digging through structures and just collect things along the way, or you might have to eject as you exit a spot that you're digging through. You can basically shoot yourself out of it, and so that's a lot of where the platforming challenge is. But also there are mild puzzles, and there are also tools sometimes that just the drill attaches to, which is always fun. We always like a good old Metroid. Your gun is also a key, is also whatever. But in this case, maybe a gun attaches to your drill, or some other things that I don't want to spoil, but they're pretty badass. Your drill itself, at the beginning of every stage, you hear it being revved up, it sounds like a chainsaw. It's very satisfying. The levels are very fun to get through. I find that I'm less enthused about the bosses. Because they require a lot of kind of like wait and see and waiting for the right time to attack, and usually the space that you have to actually be digging through structures is very small, and so like it's very challenging. You don't have a whole lot of health, and the bosses seem to have a lot of it. But still, like so far, the bosses I made it through them basically just by sheer like throwing myself at them. Like literally that's what you do in the game, of course, with your drill, but also like figuratively, like I just keep trying and eventually like, okay, I did it. I'm not sure if I feel like I'm actually getting better at fighting them. Like it all seems a little bit not random, but like I feel lucky when I actually beat a boss. But still, despite this, like the game is very good. I am facing the final boss right now, and like it's just like this great looking little game. Probably can be had still for a song at some point. Highly recommended. I don't know. Like I might be in the next few weeks recommending a lot of cheap indie games from the past few years. So if you're excited about Hades 2 and Silk Song and all the new shit that's coming out, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be talking about that. Maybe in a few years.
You know, if only there were places people could go to find conversation around Silk Song, I'm sure that they would love for us to help them find that. I think they're good.
Yeah, probably. But that's the thing. Like, maybe I'm failing this podcast by not talking about Silk Song, you know?
I'm not talking about Silk Song either, because I couldn't be fucking bothered, so...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes.
I hope they retroactively remove Silk Song and say, no, actually, it wasn't ready yet. We're gonna release it sometime in the future. No date. Just fuck it. I'll bring us back to the era of Silk Song's not out. That was so much more fun. So much more fun. People going like, is it going to be in this direct, and panicking. Now I need a new game for that. I need a new game for people to panic about whether or not it's going to be in direct.
Yeah, I mean, Metroid Prime 4 has been taken away from us as well.
Yeah, look what they've taken from us, John.
Yeah.
Bring back the thing they refused to give us to begin with. That's all I want in my life.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything. I mean, I guess there's just like...
I need an empty void.
What is it? A Star Citizen, I guess, is the big one, is the only one out there.
Well, I mean, that's a Ponzi scheme, though. That's
it's a Ponzi scheme. And then I don't know, I guess, like, what are we going to have to start pining for Half-Life 3? Is this what it's come down to? I feel like that's the lowest common denominator. I can't even remember what the
fuck happened in Half-Life 2. So, like, I don't even...
It's not as good as people remember, as far as I'm concerned.
I didn't think it was that great to begin with.
Yeah,
but
it's
whatever.
It's not bad. It's
no. I didn't say it was bad.
People act like the way people talk about it. It's like it's the best game they've ever seen ever, and it's like it's not. It's an aging first person shooter.
It's no Black Mesa.
No,
it's just even older. Greg.
Yes.
What do you got?
Well, I guess I could quickly follow up Perkyom's Namco thread with the expansion pack GBA update, where we got a couple of early 2001. Yeah, well, not early 2001, early GBA games. You know, they came out in 2001. The Mr. Driller 2 and the Klonoa, the first Klonoa game. There is a second one, but I think both of these came out on the Wii U. Part of the eShop, you know, the GBA Classics, Virtual Console on the Wii U eShop. But
I think so, yes.
For whatever reason, I think only one of the Klonoa games. I think it was something strange. Like there were two Klonoa games, and I think they came out like closer together in Japan, and then it like got localized eventually, but much later. There was something weird about it, but. Anyway, I guess I took these for a quick spin on the the Switch Online Classics app, but like I've got more experience playing them in the past, basically because I did have them on the Virtual Console back on Wii U. I guess the thing to say, especially with Mr. Driller 2, is that I still think it's Mr. Driller's fundamentally fun action kind of arcade bent on the kind of puzzle game. But the thing about it is now we do have Mr. Driller Drill Land, the GameCube game, which is much more kind of feature rich, and the audio-visual presentation is much better, and that's available on Switch for, I mean, I don't know that it may well not be on sale currently, but I know when it has been on sale, but when Namco has a decent sale going, sometimes it is really cheap. Like, yeah. I don't know exactly how much. It might be like £4 over here or something. So, maybe $6 or something. I mean, just that is a hell of a deal. Now, of course, this might be a good idea, playing this game if you're an expansion pack subscriber. Mr. Driller 2 for the GBA might be a good way to see if you just like it fundamentally. And then, that's enough to justify spending even just a little amount of money on something.
I just want to quickly mention that right now until October 6th, you can get it on the eShop for $6.39 Canadian. And so probably $5 US.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here. Mr. Driller Drillland. Yeah.
Damn good deal for that, especially, like I said, more modes. The music in particular is just far better. GBA was kind of limited, whereas they went all out with the GameCube soundtrack. It's very rich and sort of diverse and interesting. So yeah, there's definitely better ways to play Mr. Driller on Switch already. But, it's a kind of respectable one. I think probably the thing I like the most about the Mr. Driller 2 relatively is the little time attack modes, where it's almost like they kind of vary. Like, some of them are just like tests of your reflexes, right? So it's just like, okay, you've got to get to the bottom in time, and they kind of breadcrumb you along with the little time pickups to extend how long you've got to get to the goal. And it's just like, okay, identify the route that they're giving to you and execute it as fast as possible. Other ones have a little bit more of a puzzle bent to figure out stuff. The play field rotates, and you've got to figure out, okay, I've got to drill these things to create a safe space before it rotates, so that the things don't fall on top of me and kill me, and still do it all at all. Like that's probably the most interesting thing I can remember about playing this version. But so, I think it might be worth messing around with, especially if you're not that familiar with Mr. Driller 2. But there's other ways to go with the franchise that are, damn good value on that basis, what Guillaume just said. And then, with Klonoa, this is a bit of a different style from the Klonoa games that were collected together on Switch, with the 1 and 2 kind of mainline games, whereas they are essentially just kind of straight up side-scrolling platforms. They've got 3D sort of elements, where you throw stuff into the screen or something like that, but they're pretty straightforward platformers. This one has got more of a puzzle kind of a strain to it as well. It's all about kind of finding all the collectibles in an area, but the kind of, it's really leveraging the thing you do in Klonoa, where if you sort of capture an enemy, you can use them as a double jump. And it's now okay, a lot of the time you're going to have to find a way of where you've got some enemies and you've got some blocks that you can get. And it's okay, how can you kind of use these items that are available to you in the proper sequence to reach every part of the room to collect all the things in it, and then, you can leave. And they've got some little auto-scrolling stages to kind of mix it up, in some ways it's a little bit similar to the mainline Klonoa games, but that's basically what they're going for. And I remember having some fun with it. And indeed, I enjoyed playing the Klonoa games, in the collection that came out on Switch. And one thing that's probably worth thinking about now as well is, I think in particular, the second Klonoa game in that Switch collection, was a bit variable with the frame rate, right? In terms of it wasn't capped, and it was allowed to fluctuate quite a lot, and it would kind of, at times, be a bit kind of distracting because of that. And I would think, therefore, it's a decent candidate that if you were to play it on Switch 2, some of that might have just got ironed out by the fact that, it's got those extra resources available to it. So yeah, that could be something to think about as well. But another element of this actually is that the GBA app itself was updated, I think, with the previous update where in Japan they got magical star sign, whereas we were basking in the glow of Forsaken 64 on the N64 app.
What a glow it was.
They had that update. And so I think the key thing that's done for Switch 2 players, again, I mean, for me, in some ways, if I was dead set on playing a GBA game of the Switch Online for an extended period, I'd probably just still do it on my OLED Switch, because that's probably going to handle it better with the colours and the motion clarity and stuff. But I think they've updated it to be like a proper 1080p output in portable mode. And of course, what that does tend to do, it seems like, as I've already mentioned with a few other things, is that even though, yes, the screen on the Switch 2 is what it is, it's not OLED, the motion clarity is just seemingly inherently not that great on it. If it's not upscaling, it's better. And so just, messing around with Klonoa and Mr. Driller, I've kind of felt the difference a bit on Switch 2. Like, it's like, obviously it's not a huge thing by any means, but just, actually updating the output resolution specifically for Switch 2 in handheld play does make it all look a bit cleaner now. So for people that are going to be using their Switch 2s to play the GBA games, that's a nice kind of probably inevitable kind of thing that they were going to do, but it's nice that they've done it. And I assume, some similar things are probably still need to be done for some of the other apps. I haven't gone through all of them that thoroughly on Switch 2 yet, because again, it's kind of, especially these pixel art games, I'm still kind of sticking to the OLED for that most of the time, which kind of brings me to my next bit of new business, because that is the quite long awaited, I would say, amongst those who are enthusiastic for such things, shoot 'em up, Earthion. This is from Yuzo Koshiro's company, Ancient. And so, for quite a while now, we've been sort of building up. Basically, we're going to do literally a Mega Drive shooter, something that could play and will, ship on a physical cartridge. You could put in a Genesis in the US, a Mega Drive in Japan and Europe, that would function. But, they're going to use all the tricks in the book to make it, even more like impressive and stuff than the shooters were on that system back in the day. And now, of course, it was one of the consoles that had a reputation for having some cool shooters on it. I mean, it's not as synonymous with the genre as TG16, because that really was, like so much of that console's library. But, you think of stuff like Thunder Force 4, for instance, there's definitely a link there. And I would say it's funny, actually. There's Earthion's like level scenarios feels like it's got quite a few different like tributes to a lot of the greats, the classics in shoot 'em up history, and it's not just stuff that was on the Genesis by any means, but there's certainly one level where you're kind of descending into the atmosphere of a planet, through like these layers of parallax clouds, and it's like, this is Thunder Force 4, like very directly kind of recalling that aesthetically. Other stuff, I'd say you've got a riff on the kind of giant battleship scenario, which is, I would certainly associate most with R-Type. You've got a sort of, a riff on the very confined mechanical base scenario that often crops up towards the end of Gradius games. So, you just got to see as a kind of a love letter to a lot of, the kind of classic shoot 'em ups of the late 80s and the early 90s. And, obviously it's using everything it can out of that kind of Mega Drive, resources to give it, a kind of a bit of extra kind of panache, than they would have had if it was actually developed on the Mega Drive. Like, for instance, like when the ship kind of twirls into action before the level truly begins. I guess what they've done is like they've taken probably like a CG model of the ship, like, and kind of pixel shaded it so to make it look like it's a pixel art ship, and then like made a pre-rendered sprite out of that can really smoothly animate this twirling motion. and then it kind of locks into just the 2D sprite, you know, the regular, honest to God pixel art 2D sprite that you then control through the thing. So it's an irony of, you know, how far we've kind of gone with pre-rendered sprite making. Like, you know, we went from the whole point of it is that it wouldn't look like pixel art, it wouldn't look like anything else, to pre-rendering something to fake it looking like pixel art so it can blend in with the rest of it. There was a kind of cute little trick that they're pulling there. But, you know, as you'd imagine, with Yuzo Koshiro doing the music, you know, Mega Drive stuff, there's a sort of, can be like, you know, sort of a homogenous quality to, you know, Mega Drive soundtracks. A lot of them did have a similar kind of feel that could get a little bit old and didn't always sound that rich. But Yuzo Koshiro was the guy that got results out of it. He had a very good track record. You don't really think of stuff like, Revenge of Shinobi that Guillaume spoke about just last week, and of course the Streets of Rage games and so forth. So yeah, you couldn't have anybody better, you know, to get something that doesn't just sound, oh yeah, like that's the Mega Drive. It's distinctly, you know, a Mega Drive sound, but also good at the same time, you know, and that fits with the kind of propulsive, you know, nature, you know, that you want for a shoot 'em up. So all of that presentation type of stuff and all is good. In terms of the substance of the game, I've not had terribly long to play it yet. And you know, I mean, I don't think we really got down to genre composition when we talked about, you know, how, tastes in games and ability to enjoy games might have changed over the years as we've got older. But yeah, certainly, shoot 'em ups is a genre that I like more and more in theory than in practice, because, you know, I'm pretty bad at them. I was never good at them, and then you get worse. But, you know, this is a bit more, as you might expect, a bit more gentle and forgiving than like actual, you know, ones from the past, right? Because it's got like a regenerating shield aspect to it. So it's kind of like, if you get hit, it will cost you like you kind of build, every time you kill enemies, you get these green crystals that you can use to fill like a power gauge for your basic shot and the pickups that make up your kind of secondary shots. But if you get hit, you know, it could kind of cost you on that score, and it will take you a kind of shield gauge down. But if you can avoid getting repeatedly shot, your ship will not blow up. Like, if you can just, you know, the kind of critical health concept that we've seen in all the first-person shooters, all sorts of games, regenerating health, you know, in the 21st century became quite a staple, right? So it's like that kind of concept. If you can just avoid getting repeatedly done in, you can live to fight another day as the shield gauge refills. And the other part of it, I guess, is that you pick up these sub-weapons, and if you get hit enough, you'll lose the sub-weapon. So that is kind of a bit like Axlay, a shoot 'em up on Super Nintendo by Konami that is certainly favourite of mine from earlier days, because again, it was never an arcade game. So it wasn't like the real, like, deep, sick punishment stuff that, you know, was aimed at this, like, relatively kind of closed shop of Japanese arcade players, you know, that, you know, like stuff like Darius 2 or Gradius 3, where it's just, yeah, you know, the only people that they demoed it to outside of the, you know, internal developers were probably just like shooter savants, so they tuned it way the hell too high. You never had a problem with that with something like Axlay. And so, you know, that had a system where, like, it was not a one-hit kill. You had these, like, you had a weapon loadout that you kind of set up before going into a level. And then it's like, if you get hit while using a particular one of the 3 weapons in your loadout, well, then that kind of gets taken offline and you've got to be forced to use another one. And so that brought in some tactics, right? Of like, okay, in this particular bit, maybe this weapon isn't the most, like, efficient for this scenario, but I want to use it because I want to keep the other. I absolutely do not want to lose my preferred weapon for, like, when I fight the boss or something like that. And so this is more forgiving and more flexible, but it has some of that same kind of thought process involved because of, you know, the way they set it up. And they, in fact, add another wrinkle to that, because there's essentially like a dummy sub-weapon that you can pick up, right? And that has the sole purpose of, like, if you get to the end of a level with that still in your setup, then basically you get to upgrade your ship in a particular way between levels. So there's a few different things you can do. So you have some kind of important stuff like increasing how much your shield gauge can fill up, increasing how much your weapon power gauge can be filled up by those green crystals, or indeed the sub-weapon gauges as well. You can have extra lives, a few other things. So, being able to, find and collect that particular power-up, this sort of special secondary weapon that doesn't really actually do anything in itself. It's just that it's something you want to carry to the finish line. If you're capable of just, so you're giving yourself that bit less flexibility, but you still get to the end with it, you can then have a permanent upgrade and let that kind of carry you through later levels. So, I had my first real run in the game, I got a few of those, and that helped me get on a bit of a roll. And I think I got pretty close to the end. There was like this sort of boss rushy bit, and I was fighting some crazy sort of like wall with a bunch of cores on it and stuff. A bit like, again, like some of that mechanical based Gradius type of stuff. So, I think it's playing it on normal. As I was, it's pretty gentle. I was able to get pretty far, see a lot of what it has to offer. I didn't make it. I didn't get to the credits or anything, but I promised at start that I'm not just going to be completely, because that was a bit of a concern. I mean, if you read the reviews, they don't suggest it's like crazy difficult, and I think it may have already been somewhat tuned to be a bit more accommodating from where it was when it came out on Steam. But there's still a fear, like, because, like I said, I'm pretty rubbish at shoot 'em ups, these days, that it's like, well, how much am I going to get out of this? You do worry about it. But that was a promising start, and I'm definitely going to be playing some more now that I kind of get a little bit more about, understand better, how all the pickup sort of systems work and, what I like. And definitely, I think for me, this kind of goes back to Axley, how I kind of like to play that. It's generally like, okay, you can switch between the two kind of sub-weapons. Or in fact, you can upgrade. You have more than two if you get some of those upgrades. But a lot of the time, I just had two. And it really is kind of, for me, I'd like to have something that's powerful in terms of forward firepower, and then something that's got more omnidirectional firepower, and you just kind of switching among those, right? It's just like when you've got some stubborn enemy that's firing off a bunch of crap and you need to kill it quick to get rid of the amount of stuff that can kill you on the screen, you switch to forward firepower. When you're surrounded by crap, you want the omnidirectional stuff and just go between the two. And that can even apply in bosses, right? There's moments where you can just park yourself right in front of the boss and unload on it. And then there's other moments where you've got to be dodging and, kind of waiting for your next window of opportunity, and you can switch, appropriately there as well. So I like it. I like the kind of balance of things that it brings to the table so far. And, hopefully, it won't end up being some complete brick wall at the end, and I'll at least be able to see I'm sure, the higher difficulties and some of the caravan style challenges that it's got are going to add value for, people who actually have some skill remaining as shoot 'em up players. That may well be beyond me, but I think, so I think it's £15. If I could just enjoy getting through the end and maybe exploring a little bit of some of that extra stuff, that'll be more than enough for me.
Well, speaking of shooters, there's a bunch of Taito games on sale, and so I got one of the Darius collections, the Cosmic Arcade Collection, as well as like a unreasonable number of Arcade Archive Taito games. So I'll be talking about that in the future, but my skills are also not all that great, and I might have made a mistake.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, with the Darius 2, I think in particular is pretty evil. But I've got that first one that arcade collection as well. And, the original Darius is quite fun with the 3-screen layout. There's just this novelty factor. Obviously, you can't replicate the novelty factor of actually, sitting in the 3-screen cabinet, but, it is a kind of peculiar kind of thing with just that much screen real estate, between you and, especially with the bosses. It's just kind of because a lot of the time with console shooters that I grew up with, they always want to make the bosses big and impressive, but with low resolutions, that just meant like a lot of it was really claustrophobic. You're just like pressed up against these things and you've got very little time to react to their shots and stuff. So playing the original Darius is just not, again, that's not easy by any means, but it feels liberating even to whatever extent it actually should.
Cool. Anything else?
No, I think that'll do for now. I said I'll probably have a little bit more to say on Earthion next week, and of course it's Galaxy Week next week, right? So
it is.
Yeah, probably make a start on Galaxy 2 as well.
Cool. All right. Well, on that, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we will do some listener mail and maybe some news. So stay tuned. We return. We're going to start with a little bit of news, and then we're going to get into email. So, it was announced today that Nintendo of America President and CEO Doug Bowser is retiring at the end of the year, end of the calendar, not fiscal. He is going to be replaced with 2 people. The CEO position will be occupied by former Nintendo of Europe President / Nintendo of Australia Director / whatever he's currently doing back in Japan. Shibata. I can't remember his first name now. It's Satoru Shibata, right?
It's another Satoru. Yeah, that's the thing that you got to close it.
But the more pressingly, and it's possible he's going to continue to live in Japan in the process. That part I'm a little bit confused about. He moved back there after finishing up his time in Europe. The new president of Nintendo of America. I want to make sure I get the name right. Hold on. I have the last name.
What, Devin Pritchard?
Devin Pritchard.
Yep.
She is previously we go. Pritchard has held executive positions in marketing, business affairs, and publisher relations. Is currently serves as NOA's executive vice president of revenue, marketing, and consumer experience, which is
what a broad charter.
I mean, executive VPs can get there.
I guess,
it can be like you're the executive VP of like 9 different things. It's one of those things where if you're an EVP, there's an SVP under you probably for each of those buckets.
Yeah. And probably you got one of those buckets because somebody else left the company and they didn't want to hire somebody else.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
Or it's like you worked with those SVPs in the past in different roles.
Mm-hmm.
Or you were the SVP in each of those roles at some point and they just put them all under you because you'll know what they're talking about.
Yep.
Stuff like that. Like it isn't necessarily like, these things are all necessarily synergistic with each other.
Exactly. Yeah, I know that.
But that's, the role of the EVP isn't necessarily to be, specific agenda setting for a department.
Mm-hmm.
It's more to be, taking the leadership direction from the board, or in the case of Nintendo of America, from the board at NCL, and affecting it and communicating it to the more direct interacting roles beneath you. Communicating downward, communicating upward, managing expectations, and stepping in when there is a significant problem that needs to be dealt with. I mean, you obviously have some say in company vision and company plan and what things are going to be doing.
Exactly.
It's a weird role because it doesn't necessarily feel like NOA has quite the independence it's had at some of its other periods. But that could just be because the communication is more managed, like with NCL. And so there doesn't need to be periods of deviation because they've sort of consensus built ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have just like, what the fuck is this Xenoblade shit? Get this out of here. So it could just be that they've sort of, rather than one side having enough self-determination to just decide to do their own thing occasionally within the agreed parameters, that all of that stuff is worked out behind the scenes, and we just don't know that it's happening. But as it says, she held executive positions in marketing, business affairs, and publisher relations. So president of revenue, marketing, and consumer experience probably ties into that. I would guess at least one of those was the role she was in before she got this last promotion. I find it's interesting that the COO role is going to be headed by Store Shibata. Oh, he is CEO. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Bowser was COO. So Reggie was CEO of Nintendo of America. I guess Bowser was never COO. And it says Shibata will join NOA as the chief executive officer while continuing his managing executive officer role and corporate director, member of board of Nintendo Co. Limited. Pritchard will also join the NOA board of directors and become an NCL executive officer. Which I'm surprised she wasn't on the NOA board of directors, but okay. I don't know what the board.
That's what I was thinking, right? Like she was on the board of directors or something, but apparently not.
I don't know what the NOA board of directors does because
I wouldn't either.
Significant decision making power is coming out of the NCL side.
Is it not talking about her being on that? But on the big board, of directors, actually,
it explicitly calls it out as the NOA board of directors.
Oh, okay, no, fair enough.
Yeah,
and she'll become an NCL executive officer.
Yeah, probably stuff that's more specifically North America related.
Yeah, and maybe some legal stuff that comes in and regulation and things like that.
Yep.
How to respond to that kind of stuff. I would assume there's outside members on their board, but I don't know that for sure because NOA is not a listed stock, so I don't necessarily need to know who's on their board, but I would assume there's at least some outside consultation. It could be outside consultation. They've hired like law firms and stuff like that, but or their outside marketing, their outside PR teams. Like there could be a GH member on it, stuff like that. I'm sure I could find the information if I really cared. I don't. NCL executive officer though, that means she's probably going to be on a lot more trans-Pacific flights than she had been previously. So that'll be fun. Get those frequent flyer miles, bank them. Like I'm sure she's gone to Kyoto before, but NCL executive officer means probably you go there. I would guess at least quarterly or biannually. So
Yeah.
Have fun with that. Have fun with that.
It's a long
There's
flight.
worse. It's not terrible from the West Coast.
No.
And they're going to be flying. They're going to be flying out of Seattle, so they should be able to get a direct flight to Osaka, which means they can just go in. They don't have to deal with Haneda and come down from Tokyo. So that'll help. Then again, I don't think they would fly charter over the Pacific. That's too expensive. That's too fucking expensive. That is wasteful. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So yeah, I not much to read into it. Like she wasn't really in a public facing role, so there's not much background to go on. Doug Bowser kept relatively low profile in the role, and Reggie was kind of the outlier. Shibata's more of I don't want to use the word loose cannon. He's a company man, but Shibata's more of a public face than any of these characters. I mean, when he was in Europe, consistently weird, consistently strange man. I'll be curious if he's keeps two offices, like he's back and forth over the Pacific, or if he's just going to stay in Japan and handle his business there, and just work a weird schedule. But it would be tough for him to be managing executive officer and corporate director and member of the board while also being based in the U.S. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot on his plate. But we were joking before the show that he's now completed the set of major Nintendo branches. And Unless he wants to start like going down a tier and start going after like the LATAM branch and stuff. Like he's the world traveler Satoru Shibata. I'm legitimately curious. His career arc is fascinating, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't anticipate there to be much change that we'll perceive because it feels like a lot of their stuff's coming out of NCL right now. Like there is marketing decisions being made, but they have a person who's in charge of marketing and that doesn't appear to be changing. So the way they handle their marketing and PR is probably going to largely still be in the hands of the same person. So, probably not much that we're going to perceive different.
No,
so
definitely not.
I'm sure there will be, anytime anything bad happens, like, oh, this wouldn't happen on Doug Bowser. But whatever, like that happened when Reggie left and Doug Bowser took over. It is what it is. It would have happened under either of them probably, unless it was running out of pizza. Reggie would have never allowed that because Bigfoot Pizza Boy would have made sure we were all taken care of. But unfortunately,
good old Bigfoot Pizza Boy.
I think really should they're bringing back all this weird like 90s marketing at Pizza Hut to try to like get over the fact that Pizza Hut pizza's not very good.
Yeah.
And try to bring back nostalgia. They really just need to bring back Bigfoot Pizza. I mean, fuck it. Give us conspicuous consumption, literally. It is conspicuous that you would choose to eat this much Pizza Hut pizza.
Mm-hmm. James, I'm just looking at flights here out of Seattle to Osaka just because I was curious. That's a pretty long flight. Interestingly enough, no direct out of Seattle to Osaka.
Really?
Nope. No direct.
I would have thought there.
Everything has, at least not on kayak. There's nothing. There's no. Okay. They're all one stop.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, they all go through San Francisco.
Oh, I can believe that. Well,
yeah.
I mean that makes some sense. But you can go direct to Kansai from San Francisco, I guess.
Yeah, you can. Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah, that makes some sense. Okay. So yeah, just move down to San Francisco and then take your direct.
Yeah,
right,
San Francisco to Kansai is about a 12-hour flight, 11-ish, 12 hours.
Yep, that's about right.
Yeah.
It's the fun flight of a day disappears.
Yeah. And so it's about 2.5 hours from SeaTac to San Francisco and then about 11, 12 hours to Kansai.
Good Lord.
From
that's one of the fun flights where when you come back, there's a good chance you're going to land at the same time you took off.
Yeah. Also, San Francisco is a nightmare airport.
I'm not surprised.
Every time I fly through San Francisco, I have a problem, and it's the only place where I have problems. It's constantly it's constantly overbooked. Like, they'll always say, there's too many planes coming in, or your plane has to wait.
If only we could have anticipated how many planes there were.
It's crazy, because when I flew back on business last time, I was connecting through, and, I was on the last plane coming back here, connecting through San Francisco, and so I had to...
Oh, God.
Yeah, so my flight was... Not only was it delayed in Seattle, not only was I delayed there an hour and a half because San Francisco was too busy, so we had to wait on the tarmac for an hour.
Oh.
I get into San Francisco, and I got into San Francisco. Literally, I'm sitting there deplaning while I'm getting the boarding texts for my next flight, which is the last flight, so I would have missed it, and I would have had to... If I would have missed it, I would have had to stay overnight in a hotel.
Gross.
Yeah, very gross. But that happens all the time in San Francisco. Every time.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's the only airport where I've ever had to stay overnight because I missed my flight back here. So I had to hop on. Sorry for the tangent, but I had to lay there on. Because the thing is, everybody in my flight was also decided to stay overnight. So you have pretty much about 50 people scrambling to find the most comfortable, incredibly uncomfortable seat in the airport. So, yeah.
I mean, imagine being in the same state as LAX and being worse.
Yeah. I don't mind LAX. I've never had any problems with LAX, really.
Oh.
I've never had any problems with it.
Did I tell you about the cheese incident there?
No.
The cheese incident. Let me set a marker here because I feel like that's going to be...
No, it's good. So I'm coming back from E3, and in security, I'm flying back on Sunday. Sunday? Yeah, it was Sunday. And I had an early morning flight because I'm trying to get back home in a reasonable hour because I'm having worked E3 going to work on Monday like an absolute goddamn chump. Mm-hmm. And we're there, and if you've ever been in LAX security, like it funnels you into these rooms that are like hallways, almost like queue rooms in like an attraction. And there's big gates on them, when they close during the day, or at night. And we're in line, and all of a sudden the gates slam closed. And not slow, like boom, boom. Everything shuts down, and every TSA agent suddenly converges on the scanner in front of me. By the way, this is around the time that I decided I needed to get TSA pre-check.
TSA pre-check is great.
Yeah, you don't get it. Don't get TSA pre-check. It's
right.
It's not worth it.
It sucks, actually.
It's the worst. I spent so much more time in line with pre-check. Don't get it. Mm-hmm. And they have to shut everything down because they've detected what appears to be explosive in the bag in the scanner right now that I am 4 people behind. They don't say this, but the fact that agents are showing up from every angle sort of gives the game away.
Okay.
They try to talk to the woman whose bag it is, but nobody can figure out what language she's speaking. For reference, she was flying to Tuvalu. So Tuvaluese, I don't know. They didn't have a translator for her, so that was good. Eventually they decided to just take the bag out and look inside, which again, set off the plastic explosive detector. Lesson, cheese and chocolate look like explosives to explosive detectors.
That's so stupid.
She was flying back to Tuvalu with a large block of cheese. Caused all of security in LAX to shut down that entire screening area while we stood around wondering if we were going to be blown up.
That's so great.
E3's the worst. It was consistently just an absolute pain in the ass. And in this moment, I thought, if I die after this god-awful E3, because that was the last one I went to where basically there was nothing to do. Mm-hmm. Because this, like, I felt pretty good when somebody noted her bag said Tuvalu on it. I'm like, all right, it's probably okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. I mean,
and then,
if it's okay. It's like if they're recruiting terrorists from Tuvalu, they're going pretty deep in their bag. I can actually kind of respect that.
The funny part is when we get through there later, if you don't know what Tuvalu, it's a Polynesian island in the middle of the Pacific. It's basically a coral reef.
You might know it as the TV.
Yes.
Web. What do you call that? Appendix? No.
Top level domain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a country that likely won't exist in 100 years because it's only 4 meters above sea level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were going through security afterwards after our 30-minute delay due to cheese, and the guy at the scanner is still grousing because it was his scanner. And I asked him, like, what happened? And he goes, she had a bunch of cheese. I'm like, what? He goes, cheese and chocolate set off the bomb detector if they're big enough. And I'm like, are you for real? And then as I'm sitting there waiting for my flight, I look it up, and sure enough.
That is so funny.
It's like, God damn. And the fact they couldn't find anyone to talk to her either delayed everything. Because they couldn't even figure out what language she was speaking.
Yeah.
It's like, holy fuck. Yeah, traveling is awful. It's just consistently the worst. I don't understand. Why it's gotta be like this? Why can't it be nice? Like, why can't it be like when you see video from like the 60s where they're like, we're on the plane and we're all just smoking a cigarette and drinking alcohol and having a great time in suits. Now it's like, get in here, sardine. We're gonna make you suffer. because you didn't pay to have your TV screen work. Have fun. It's just terrible. Just terrible. Anyway, digressions aside, email. Hey, you know what doesn't suck? Email. I love when you send an email. Most of the time. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it makes me miserable. Sometimes you're sending me objectives like, come up with their top 10 Mario games using the numbers 1 through 10, but those numbers have to be in the title. It's just Mario Party 1 through 10. And if you won't let me count one, it's Mario Party 11 as number 1, and then Mario Parties 2 through 9, or 2 through 10 as the other numbers. Congratulations. Like, there's no Mario with the 5 in it. So we're kind of stuck here. So emails, you could send them. I would like you to send them. I'm asking you, cordially inviting you to send us your questions, comments, ideas, prompts. Last time we did this, last time we had this segment, you got to hear John describe his ideal, his LCD-based swatch that you can also use to Street Pass. That's not content you're going to get on any other podcast on Earth. I promise you
You're not. But the thing is, I don't share James's enthusiasm about email. I really don't care if you send email. I mean, you know.
If you want to tell John to go fuck himself, you can send your email to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That's rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. He doesn't believe you can send email. He doesn't believe in you and your creative powers.
Look, I've just seen a lot of shit. I'm pretty cynical and skeptical about people sending emails. He thinks you don't have the skill. People talk a whole lot of mess about sending emails, and it's just, I don't see it, or they're pretty lame. So, I'm just saying.
He doesn't think you can send a good email. I believe in you. Don't you want to prove him wrong? Send your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com and prove John Lindemann wrong. He barely talks. You get the opportunity to prove a man who doesn't talk wrong. I
choose my words, James. You know?
Do you?
Yeah.
That's a new word.
I do.
Not sure I agree.
I do. You know, it's quality over quantity. You know? It's like, you know, I mean, it's not my fault you sit here and talk for 2 hours about Kirby. It's like, I'm not going to have much input on that one.
He can say these things with a straight face. That's the amazing part. His ability to deliver that monologue without cracking,
without shame, really, actually,
is truly unparalleled. Yeah. Send him a metaphorical punch to the face. rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. John, just for that, I'm going to make you read the first email.
Oh boy! All right.
Actually, this isn't even that bad a one.
All right.
I could have done much worse.
Ryan writes, "Hello all and Lindemann. Okay. I think that now is a great time for Nintendo to finally release N64DD games using their streaming option, Nintendo Switch Online. Since none of these escaped Japan originally, it would be fantastic to have the option to play these for the first time. Which N64DD game do you think RFN would discuss way too much if it was released? SimCity 64, Doshin the Giant, Japan Pro Golf Tour 64. Yours, semi-truly, Ryan."
So,
Doshin the Giant would be one definitely I want to check out.
Do you want the list of N64DD games?
I kind of need it.
There's not that many.
Yeah, I figured, but I don't know.
Yeah, all right. So the funny thing here,
well, it's last week you basically said with the challenge of, like, you know, if Virtual Boy's getting greenlit, what's getting turned down? Right. To which it was said, well, yeah, it's probably stuff that's less weird, and this pretty much fits that bill, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, it's adjacent to a part of the service that already exists, the N64 bit. So right. You know, it's much more than that. You get similarly sort of microscopic game library, you might say. But you know, it seems more logical when presumably like some of the emulation challenges are probably already closer to being solved, I would think, because you've already got N64 there, and all that kind of stuff. It just, this is a very vivid illustration of what you were talking about there. But I mean, explain to me why the answer isn't the F-Zero X expansion kit.
Because the F-Zero X expansion kit's just a ROM hack, ultimately. Like, the only thing, I mean,
it's got that, like, Japanese instrumentation extra song in the soundtrack. Checkmate.
It does have an extra song, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But essentially, most people aren't familiar with the 64DD. Let's give the background here. Nintendo wanted to release a disc-based add-on for the N64 to counter the fact that the cartridges are very expensive to produce.
And they talked about it really early on, didn't they? You know what I mean? Like, this was something that it wasn't like you got a few years in and then they started talking about it. Like, it's like, okay, maybe we've run into more problems than we thought we would sticking with cartridges. So, let's have this like as some sort of off-ramp. Like, they were talking about it from an early point to the extent that, Ocarina of Time, or what became Ocarina of Time, was, even when it was thought to be coming out in 97, I think they were talking about that being a disc drive game. And they were kind of like zip discs, I guess, like that kind of physical form factor and stuff.
Magnetic discs that were rewritable. They're bigger than zip discs. They're decent sized.
And basically, like that port, like there's a port under the N64, right? Like
yeah, there's an expansion port,
right? So it would have fit under the N64.
Yeah, following in the footsteps of the disc system for the Famicom in Japan, but that obviously was like 3 years in that came along in Japan, but which this ended up being similar because I think it was it 99 that it did show up in Japan?
Yeah,
and
December
only
Japan.
99. But the difference being, I think, again, this was mooted for a long period, and eventually there are some similarities with Virtual Boy, I would say, in terms of there was this sense of kind of grim obligation. It's like we've spent enough time and resources on this initiative that we're almost obliged to put it out there in some form, but we're obviously not going to waste that much time and money on it because we basically know it's a bit of a loser at this point. So we'll do it, but not put our full heart into it.
Yeah, there was. So basically, the idea is that it is also a 64 megabytes of storage, which compared to what an N64 cart could hold is massive compared to literally any other storage medium, including the PlayStation at the time. It is nothing. But it's a step in the right direction to having storage. It was a rewritable magnetic disc. So yeah, closer to a zip disk in that respect, but much, 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 much smaller, despite the actual format being much larger. Significant size. The idea was that it needed to be relatively cheap. Because the hope was that you'd be able to put larger things on there, that it could be faster, that it would be, not faster, that it would be cheaper than cartridges and all that stuff.
But faster than optical media, right? Like, so it would be a bit of a halfway house between the restrictions of cartridges and the limitations of optical media. Somehow going to straddle that line in a favourable trade-off. But yeah, I mean,
so let's put it this way: they showed it at the Shoshinkai in 1996. So that was November of 96, which would be what, months after the N64 launched in Japan?
Yeah, June in Japan, September in America, and it wasn't out in Europe yet, so very early.
Yeah, and that wasn't like we're talking about it. That was them revealing it. Miyamoto had a quote at the time, or a little bit later on. It would have been easier to understand if the DD was already included when the N64 first came out. It's getting harder to explain after the fact. Laughs. Of course it ends with laughs. So all of his quotes end with laughs.
Parenthetically. Laughs.
Yes, parenthetically laughs. The thing is, there's only 10 games for this, and I'm using the word game here extremely generously because a number of these are DLC. And Greg mentioned F-Zero X, it was called the expansion kit.
Like, do you think this is Nintendo's biggest failure? I think it might be. I mean,
Again, some of it is just, again, though, they didn't even, really kind of put their full force behind it. So it's, again, it's just like, it's tough to say that something is that big of a failure when it is like, we kind of know this isn't going to work, but we still
They only released it in Japan, like they didn't even try here.
The fact that they released it in Japan indicates how big of a failure they kind of knew it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no sense to me that they go through all the trouble of putting this hardware out with only, like, I don't know, like 3 real games, and then they just abandon it? Like, why did you even do it? That makes no sense. I would
say it's a peculiar sort of, unhappy medium or whatever, because it seems to be like, it's like, if you're demonstrating this kind of reluctance to put that much sort of force behind it. So it kind of says to you, well, why not just go all the way and just shelve it?
Yeah.
And then it feels like, from an economic point of view, it's this weird fudge that I don't know whether you feel it's a political thing within the company of keeping some people happy, that were more in favor of the initiative, that like, we kind of owe it to them, or, to ourselves to see it through and at least have some sense of whether there was more there than they were expecting past a certain point. But the same thing could be said of the Virtual Boy, although at least that was released in America. But again, it just had this feeling of like, okay, we
just have to do it.
It's like getting trapped in the sunk cost fallacy, but not all the way. Like this weird, like, we kind of know we are, but we're still gonna halfway follow through. And it's this sort of grim obligation again.
I still view the Wii U as their biggest failure, because they did put their force behind that.
Absolutely. It's a way bigger. I know it had 14 million, and again, you could look at it way far different. It depends what rubric you're using, right? Because it's like, so you sell 14 million units, and it's got had loads of really good games on it, even though it didn't have the breadth of, kind of developers and publishers were bringing games out for it and all that. The stuff that Nintendo made, some indie stuff, like, there's some great stuff. Like, not much of it is exclusive at this point, but like at the time when it was coming out, there was lots of good stuff. Whereas
Nintendo thought it was a winner. That's the difference.
But 10, whereas like 10 games, like, and as James alludes to, like, some of it's expansions, it's applications, like Mario Artist stuff, like it's
weird.
So it depends what standard you're using, basically.
I think that the answer to me is Wii U, because it forced them to do a bunch of things they would have never done otherwise. Mm-hmm. Yep. Like, it forced them to do mobile games. It forced them to change how they do licensing. It put them in the position where they're now making Mario movies. It forced them to start a new console cycle way earlier than they wanted to. It forced them to finally unify their platforms. Like, it was a mess that forced them to reevaluate and make good decisions that I think they're still paying off. But it fundamentally was still a goddamn mess. I can go through the games real quick to kind of so Greg mentioned F-Zero X expansion. The big addition was that it's a track editor. It used the fact that the disc had writable storage space on it to let you save the F-Zero tracks you could create. I have seen some of the F-Zero tracks that people created. They're very bad. So it wasn't, in and of itself, there really wasn't any extra new gameplay. As Greg alluded to, there is a new song. There is Japan Pro Golf Tour 64, which is an online-enabled golf sim game. There's
the RandNet thing, right?
I was going to get to that. There's the RandNet. So Nintendo signed a deal with an internet provider in Japan to do RandNet, which there was one of the 10 carts is the RandNet disc, which, if you had access to RandNet, allowed you to plug a phone line into your, I think it was 48.8 modem speed baked into the device, and lets you do some limited data sharing over the internet, or with the RandNet one, I think you could browse the internet on a TV experience, which I'm sure was just miserable. But Pro Japan Golf Tour had some kind of online enabled play. I don't know if it was real time. I think it might have just been like, it's golf. It doesn't have to be real time.
It's probably uploading a score to the... I mean, they kind of tried to, like, backdoor that with Mario Golf 64, I think. Like, you'd get, like, tournament codes or something, and then you could upload them to a website, or so, which I think is actually how they did upload in high scores for Metroid Prime Pinball all the way on the DS.
That sounds right.
In the mid-aughts.
There's the two main Mario artists. One was Polygon Studio, which lets you make 3D objects, and then there was Paint Studio, which had a mouse that was exactly what it sounds like. It was a drawing program, and then there was Mario Artist Communication Kit, which was kind of an add-on for both of those that let you share your creations. Oh, and there was Talent Studio, which I can't remember what that one did. I think it might have let you combine the results of some of them. I can't remember. That one was weird. And it came with the peripheral.
One of these has some sort of weird, like, proto WarioWare component. Like, because I think
that's Talent Studio, because you could create characters.
There's like a hint of, obviously, only a few years later that WarioWare is going to come along. And I think there is some sort of hint of it in one of these.
It came with a capture cartridge, so you could export your content. Very odd. It's a very odd piece of hardware. So again, that's 3 Mario Artists and a Mario Artist add-on, 2 of which came with an external piece of hardware. I'm almost through the full list of games. SimCity 64, which was a sequel to SimCity for the Super Nintendo, so not the SimCities that we know. This is an actual game.
Yeah, it looks like it did some interesting things. Like you could go like check out your city from street level, basically. Like you could see your city at night, which apparently was not really a thing until SimCity 4 on PC.
I want to say the street level came from 2000, but yeah, the night came later. It's got a weird, like, retro look to it, although that wasn't retro at the time, obviously. It had RANnet for sharing of information about your cities. This was HAL developed. There's Hyojin no Doshin, aka Doshin the Giant. This is... I've played Doshin the Giant. I'm not sure I would know how to describe it.
Is it control like some sort of Tamagotchi, or...
No, you control this big lumbering giant, and you give him tasks to either help or hurt the villagers around him that make him good or evil as a consequence. It's weird. It's kind of like it's kind of the designer described it as Populous meets Mario. I don't agree with that, but there's definitely some Populous here. It's a very odd game.
A lot of this stuff kind of feels like it's picking up on that strain of early Super Nintendo things that were more like PC flavored, than console. You had SimCity for Super Nintendo, you had Mario Paint, all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, with N64, it couldn't really seem to like pick up on that sort of strand. But I guess because a lot of it was being maybe saved for the disk drive when they thought it was going to be coming out at a time when the N64 would still be, in the early to mid portion of its life cycle. But of course, by the time it emerged, it was more getting towards the end and only in Japan. So yeah, a lot of these sorts of following up on these things that they established on Super Nintendo, if essentially in America and Europe, they never followed up on them. Although I do feel like there's this sort of shadow of the 64 DD could still be felt in things that did come out for the regular N64. I mean, I really think Majora's Mask surely wouldn't exist the way that it does without the 64 DD, because it's pretty clear that at some point when Zelda was being developed with the disk drive in mind, that it's like, oh, well, we'll have a system clock, right? And Hyrule will change with the time of day, right? And then when the system clock goes bye-bye, it's like, and obviously Ocarina of Time, it had a basic day-night cycle, but nothing fancy. But then you have, okay, we're going to do another Zelda, and what can we do? Then they had the idea of just having a sort of contained, just for that universe sort of calendar over the 3 days and all that. Like, I can't imagine Majora's Mask could have existed in anything like the form that it did if it hadn't gone on that weird journey.
You are correct. There were 2 add-ons for the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time that were in development for the DD. One of them is known as Zelda.
Yeah, which the remnants of that are the sort of in the Master Quest sort of release for GameCube and then
they're
3DS.
Kind of shuffled in there. Yeah, so Zelda, some of the stuff didn't make it, like the Unicorn Mountain stuff that came out, some images. The idea was that it's supposed to be basically the Ocarina of Time for super players. The dungeons
you got the kind of remixed dungeons a little bit and stuff, you know.
Yeah. The idea is that it's just more difficult, and there'd be some new enemy types and stuff like that. The other one was Zelda Gaiden, which, as the name would imply, was supposed to be a side story. That is what the Majora's Mask
was publicly kind of referred to as for a little bit,
right? And that's what evolved into Majora's Mask. So, like, both of those components came out to some degree. Zelda, not everything came over, obviously, but in Master Quest, but some of the ideas they were playing with, some of the prototypes came in, because the game, they never finished Zelda, so it wasn't like they could just release it. Doshin is particularly weird, because not only is it this weird populist thing, the 10th game that I haven't mentioned yet is called, and I am not making this fucking shit up. I wish I was. I am not this funny. I don't have this in me. Kyojin no Doshin Kaiho Senshi Chibiko Chiko Dashugo. It is N64 expansion to Doshin the Giant, where you play as kids because the giant's been kidnapped. What you do is you plug it into your 64DD. It then asks you to plug in Doshin 1. It updates the save data to Doshin 1 to add some monuments you have to build. And after you build those ones, you then plug in the Doshin sequel add-on. And every time you do that, these kids are added to a lobby area who have the ability to sprinkle hearts on each other and also the giant. And if you do it enough times, the giant will break out of his cage and then the credits play. Also, there are some black and white movies that play as you do this.
Okay, but you forgot to give the translation for what you said. Doshin the Giant. I did. Doshin the Giant, Thinking Toddler Liberation Front, assemble.
Yes, that is what it translates to. It's phenomenally stupid. Doshin the Giant, though, came out in Europe. On the GameCube. You could play it in English if you want, in glorious 50 hertz. Yes. But it is out. I have it. I have played it. It is inscrutable, even in English. They could just release it on the GameCube one.
I get theoretically.
And so that's the problem, is that there's really not that much to release on a 64DD service. Like, they could put
still, I mean, what is it? They're doing 14 with the Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
So they are games as opposed to
games
apps in some of these sorts of cases. But still, I mean, don't hate the release Mario Paint. That's an app. That's true. Essentially.
We have 2 Mario artists that are standalone. 3, I guess you can say. Talent Studio is a standalone. We have 3 Mario artists that are standalone. Talent Studio is basically just Mii Maker. Polygon Studio is legitimately unique. Paint Studio is unique. Communications Kit we can't leverage because RandNet doesn't exist. Doshin the Giant, there's a better version they could release. Doshin the Giant Liberation Front. Fuck, what?
That's the militia group.
The Monty Python bit, yeah.
Japan Pro Golf Tour 64, yes, you could release that, I suppose. SimCity 64, you could release that, legitimately. F-Zero X, you couldn't, because it's still predicated on F-Zero X being in the cartridge slot.
You need some sort of lock-on technology stuff. Well, they did Sonic and Knuckles on the Wii Virtual Console. So.
But that's just because they posted 3 different ROMs and called it a day. I'm sure they could do something if they wanted to, but like I said, all it really does is add a level maker. That's not very good and hard to use. So, like, I don't know that you're really gaining that much from it. The only other thing that we know of besides the Zelda prototypes is there was like a Mario 64 for DD prototype.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I can't ever remember seeing confirmation of it, but and it's been so long, is, I mean, obviously Animal Crossing debuted on the N64 in Japan.
Right.
But didn't get localized until the GameCube version.
Correct.
But, I mean, that seems like the kind of concept that might have started life, maybe thinking about, the 64DD's system clock and all that kind of thing, and then they just sort of did they put it in the cartridge in the case of that N64 release in Japan?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, they did.
Was it Animal Crossing that started out as Cabbage?
Is Cabbage?
The game called Cabbage, yeah.
Yeah, Miyamoto used to talk about the Cabbage.
Yeah. Miyamoto spoke eagerly about the innovative development of Cabbage across the years until early 2000. Years later, he reflected that it had drifted silently into cancellation, but that it deeply influenced other Nintendo games such as Animal Crossing and Nintendogs.
Okay.
It was planned for release on the 64DD, and it was sort of a breeding simulator.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I just call that life.
And the game, the game would make use of the 64DD's internal real-time clock, a hardware feature then unique to game consoles, to keep the Cabbage creature and its virtual world seeming to run while the console is turned off. Furthermore, the game was supposed to allow Game Boy connectivity via the N64 controller's transfer pack, to which the creature could be transferred in an interactive carrying basket game and then released into the virtual environment of other 64DD-equipped consoles.
And I can confirm that Dobutsu no Mori, the N64 Animal Crossing, did start life as a DD game.
Yeah.
It just seemed too obvious. But in that case, yeah, they really did need that. So they actually added it to the cartridge, the physical cartridge, which I would imagine would have been another reason that would have made it pretty hard to justify localizing it at that time, because, if you add into the cartridge cost,
it was super late.
Exactly. It was, again, it's kind of interesting that they chose to release it in Japan at all, rather than just hold it over for GameCube, but maybe they got some valuable experience out of that.
Yeah. So the Animal Forest, which is the N64 game, came out. Well, actually, let me do this. The Animal Crossing GameCube game came out December 14th, 2001 in Japan. When do you think the N64 Animal Forest it was based off of, but it's not the same game, came out? Very close. Very close to being the same game, but not quite.
Yeah, I mean, it was the earliest, I think, is the very end of 2000, but it might even be 2001.
April 14th, 2001.
Yeah, and I mean, the N64 was more dead in Japan at that time than it was elsewhere. Elsewhere you'd still had Conker coming out around that time, or maybe.
Yeah, that's the thing. You had games coming out only in the UK and the US by that point. They weren't even being released. No, exactly,
because the N64 really did not do
super
very
dead.
well in Japan. The things that helped keep it afloat in other markets, kind of the first person shooters, the multiplayer stuff, the sports games, they all played better in particularly in America and, to some degree, over here and in Europe.
So 8 months after it came out on N64, they had a GameCube port. So yeah, the fact it never left
that's the
Japan.
famous thing about basically it was small enough that it could just run in memory, right? You didn't even need the disc in there to run it on GameCube.
Correct. Which makes sense. It's an N64 game, which would have had 12 megs of memory. But there's no point in releasing a 64DD version of that. You'd release the N64 one. Or the GameCube one. Which is the same game, basically.
So again, there's not a lot of practical value in this. It's an interesting footnote.
It's got to be SimCity.
I guess it's got to be, yes. But although, still, the song with
do you want to make that the end music? We can do that.
No. I've already got music picked out.
All right. I was just thinking we could give the audience the 64DD experience. The Satellaview has more interesting content than the DD. And that's the thing that relied on playing sound at you.
Yeah, the Satellaviews are very interested in terms of those live broadcast elements.
It's Bangayo Spirits or some shit.
It's that is quite peculiar, and obviously, just the thing about the Satellaview stuff is it's not necessarily very well preserved at all.
No,
because like I said, you talk about stuff that was broadcast and then put on those rewritable like cartridges, right? That the Nintendo Power system or whatever they had over there and stuff. So yeah, like people have, as is always the case, if you actually drill down into this stuff, there's some very dedicated people doing remarkable things to try and sort of recreate experiences like that were sort of ephemeral in that way. You think of like some of the stuff that was on feature phones in Japan.
Yeah,
is similar as well. People try their best, but obviously a lot of that is just kind of lost to time. Whereas the DD games, because they were the RANnet stuff you already mentioned, right? There's elements that are just kind of, without that, it's kind of gone or it's redundant. But a lot of it is just, there is some preservation of it because there were physical, games that people could buy in Japan, I guess.
I think most of the major Satellaview products, because there was a bunch of stuff, have been cobbled together from those storage devices that people have. Now, the SoundLink things, which were reliant on actual broadcast happening in real time, those are the ones where it's harder to put them back together. But I want to say the F-Zero 2 stuff is done. I want to say, with the exception of the sound stuff, the 3 Zelda games are more or less playable. Radical Dreamers was available, but they've actually released that now.
Yes, no, that's right. It's in with Chrono Cross, naturally.
The Zelda ones are interesting, and I would that would be more interesting to me to see them release. Because they're weird. They're very odd in a lot of different ways. I don't think anybody's really interested in Heisei Shin, what's it called? Onigashima, which is like another Onigashima game, which again, I don't know that anybody even knows what that shit is. It's one of those platforming fairy tale games from PAC Softnautica that I don't think we ever got any of. Or the Excite Bike now with Mario characters, which was one of the broadcasts. But yeah, like the Zelda one, Ancient Stones. What was the other two called? Those are kind of neat. Like I've played one of them because there is actually an available ROM, that somebody has assembled, and it's pretty cool. But there's a lot of fucking horse racing on this Satellaview. I'm just gonna tell you right now. There's a lot of fucking horse racing on the Satellaview.
Well, maybe some of us can't get enough. Okay, right?
There's so much goddamn horse racing. There's a variant of Dragon Quest 1. There's a Fire Emblem variation. There's multiple F-Zeros and a Harvest Moon. Like, there's so much goddamn horse racing. I cannot impress upon you how much fucking horse racing is on this goddamn system. There's a SimCity add-on, which is very funny. It was a contest for building. There's an add-on for there's a Detective Club game that's not a game because it's not interactive at all. It just plays. And it stars, I can't remember what her name is, the female.
Sure, yeah. And there was a remake of one of the Famicom ones, right? Was this a Satellaview thing as well?
Yes. There are 3 Zelda product. The Legend of Zelda Map 2, which is exactly what it sounds like. BS Legend of Zelda, which is the original game ported to the Super Nintendo, I believe. And then Map 2 is just that with a different map. And then Ancient Stone Tablets, which doesn't even have Zelda characters in it, but uses that control thing. I want to say there was a Chrono Trigger game too, also as well. Yeah, like there's stuff
other than Radical Dreamers.
Yeah, it was like a bike racing game.
Oh, is it something to do with that? The what's his name? Johnny something, isn't it? That
yeah. And some of the RPG, I want to say some RPG Maker games got released over that service too, like some really weird shit. So like there's stuff. There's much more interesting stuff they could do in that space, assuming they still have the capacity to do something with that space.
Yeah, well, any of that stuff is available to them to consider. But
available, but Saint Giga owns some of the rights there, so that could be tough because I don't know that Saint Giga still exists.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, again, it just, you think like, just especially with Switch 2 opening up this thing with the mouse controls and all that, you'd kind of think mouse games and Zapper games for NES and Super Scope for Super NES, like, those are the sorts of like weird corners of the, Nintendo kind of library down the years that might not have been explored that thoroughly in previous virtual console initiatives that they'd go after, right? So you had some Zapper games on the Wii U, the Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley, for instance, but certainly Super Scope games, I don't think I've ever been. I mean, there's not that many of them, and I'm not under the impression that they're terribly, kind of brilliant or anything. But, stuff like that before Virtual Boy, for sure. And well, to be fair, we still may get things like that before Virtual Boy because the extra peculiar element of it is that, it won't be with us for several months. I do still get a sort of little bit of a chuckle, a smile out of the fact that if I go to the My Nintendo Store over here website, you get the banner on the top with like pre-order Virtual Boy, or you get the if you go to the Switch Online sort of the icon on the bottom of the menu. It's got the sort of, Virtual Boy, kind of thing, get, well, at least with the Switch Online store, like you can pre-order a physical product. To be hyping it up on the Switch Online app this many months out, it's like, are you just going to keep it there the whole time? Like all these months? It's just, I don't know. I think even they are getting some joy out of the irony value of just like,
definitely.
It's some Gabbo is coming action.
There is a certain amount of this is them having the piss. Like they know what they're doing. They're fucking around. But I also wonder if they're pushing the like buy the plastic thing because they've made N number of these and they're just like, we need to sell all of them or to even come close to breaking even. Keep the ad on the fucking page.
Yeah, it's a hard sell. I mean, it's I guess it's both. It works for actually trying to induce people to buy this thing maybe, or if not, they've always got the gag value. But it just seems so kind of anathema to the whole thing of like Switch Online, which is just like, this thing is available right now, or it's available next week at the latest, and it's still sort of surreal to me that we're talking about this. So you can't beat that. Anything you can come up with, DD, Satellaview, old peripherals, I mean, where's Gyromite? Eh? I mean, what got Cellus Rob again?
Yeah,
I mean, fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Why can't it be? Why can't they make an amiibo Rob that also moves?
Yeah, that we can finally play Stack Up as the Almighty intended. Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of how much the Satellaview is just an absolute freak occurrence of a product. Saint Giga is somewhat famous because they were the first satellite broadcaster of music. If you think about what Sirius and XM were doing in the US, Saint Giga beat them by a decade. But their big customers were like stores who would have satellite music systems to receive essentially what is background music. But they became famous for their release of, quote, Tides of Sounds nature recording broadcasts, which is the most Japanese fucking shit possible. They were a subsidiary of WoW, which is a television station. And the reason they got in bed with Nintendo was the beginning of the economic stagnation of Japan caused a decline in the need for background music for stores. And so that part of their business really fell through, and they were looking for a new partner and told Nintendo, we can send good audio. And that's how that's how all this fucking Satellaview shit happened. This is the weirdest fucking, like, there's a book somewhere on, like, weird Nintendo that we could write. Mm-hmm. That it's not trying to be a comprehensive history of Nintendo. It's just a history of when weird shit happens. And not like, did you know Nintendo used to have love hotels? Yeah, everybody fucking knows that. Get out of my face.
Yeah, like I would really like to actually know. I would like to know the inside story of the 64DD.
Yeah, like when the team that was still working on it knew they had a flop on their hands.
Yeah.
Why did they keep going? If they had a working prototype in 96, why did it take 2 more years for it to come out? Mm-hmm. Like, what was going on there? What games started there and moved, and what did those directors get? Like, you have to imagine the people who were making Zelda Gaiden were getting a lot of pressure from the team that was backing the DD to not move it to the cartridge, because if they didn't, Nintendo was gonna have to release a 64DD worldwide.
Yeah.
They were gonna have to, especially as Ocarina of Time blew through the goddamn sales roof. They were gonna have to. We've got them. We've got the bosses. They're gonna have to release this fucking piece of shit. And then they move it to the N64, and that's the end of the story. It's not happening now. Like, I do wish Nintendo could release some of that content. It might be better served, though, as a actual, like, packed up piece of software where they just recreate those components, rather the 64DD integration, rather than trying to cobble together ROMs.
It would be more interesting. I mean, I think it would be most interesting if they, like if they released like an interface that would basically be a rip of what would happen when you booted up the 64DD. That would be really cool. And then you could select the games within it. That would be really, really neat.
Right. Yeah. Rather than even trying to emulate it, just recreate them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm more interested in seeing the menus of the 64DD and all of that, really, than I am playing any of the games for it.
They're real bad. They're real stinky.
Yeah.
But yeah. In ways you would expect. Navigating a computer menu on my N64 in the year of our Lord 1999.
Yeah, and also, if it's not a product that I can insert my Switch into, then I don't want it.
I mean, you could try.
Certainly I could. There is a slot for it. Yeah.
Anything with enough force will eventually concede to your will.
True. I mean, I suppose if they did release an empty 64DD shell with a disc tray big enough to fit the Switch into it that I could just insert that into, then I who's to say $100? Easy.
The empty DD shell.
Taking that out of my pocket right now for that empty shell.
I released the shell cut. Anyway, yeah, 64DD is probably not the answer here. Satellaview is where it's at if you're looking for weird nonsense bullshit. There's probably some disk system stuff too that we never got that would be interesting weird bullshit Nintendo could pull.
For sure. Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, on that Wikipedia page there's a mile-long list of unreleased games or proposed games that were moved to cartridge.
Yeah. All right, let's do. Oh wow, we're at an hour. Holy shit, we just absolutely wasted time on that question.
If there's one thing we waste time on, it's talking about awful Nintendo hardware.
What an impossible story we just pulled off. Okay, well the last email has no answer, so we're just gonna read it because we alluded to it earlier. Donald writes, "Hello, gentlemen and John. Now that Hollow Knight Silksong has accomplished what many thought impossible and launched, I need some help rebuilding a sign. Specifically, the sign that I sigh and tap whenever there's any form of multi-game Nintendo presentation to indicate that something isn't coming, which until today read no Silksong. Are there any games that meet the qualification hyped, radio silent for a long period of time, and come from a small enough team that it could be seen as possibly appearing in an Indie World show? Or should I make it no Switch 2 price drop and never worry about it until redacted to avoid political discussion? Thank you for your time, and I'm sorry I couldn't hook up with Guillaume and Karen during their recent travels." This is from Donald Terrio, who is the news lord on Nintendo World Report, who has had to use the "There Will Be No Silksong" for like 4 straight years as an image anytime a Direct was announced. I regret that there may not be an obvious candidate for this role now.
No, it's pretty singular. We already mentioned just like how bizarre it is, the way that it sent all these other games scrambling to get away from its launch date and all that.
Like
Like,
it
what
was
else
Grand
could
Theft Auto
do
6
this?
or something.
What else could like bring the various storefronts to their knees and all? I mean, it's just like I don't.
It really would be
is quite
like Half-Life
remarkable.
3, really.
Yeah.
But that's the thing; it's not small enough to potentially be in an indie world show. Though, then that's why this is so impossible. It's so needle thready. How do you be on the one hand that kind of indie kind of world friendly type of thing, but also have that kind of terrible gravity that forces the disclaimer to be issued again and again and again and again.
But
we've
also
had some
the years of unknown to go with it.
Yeah,
while maintaining that gravity.
Because again, with a lot of the bigger stuff, at some point, it's like you're kind of under pressure to ship, right? Eventually, a lot of the time, there's going to be, okay, so if it doesn't, it's got to come out of this particular fiscal year. I mean, stuff happens, obviously, that Perfect Dark initiative at Xbox that got rebooted a few times. It sounded like it was actually getting somewhere, but then it's like, nah, we're cancelling that now. So sometimes stuff will get cancelled rather than just forced out the door in whatever shape it's in, but so it's not as if that's the only thing that can happen. But yeah, it just, nothing about this feels repeatable to me. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. You've had meme type things, with like, don't ask about Smash Brothers characters when that was still a thing. Don't ask about Metroid Prime 4 because they literally just said they've started from scratch, so it's probably going to be a while.
We will not be discussing the Switch 2 during this direct.
Yeah, that as well. We've kind of we've gone past
3.
We've gone past a lot of old favourites in that regard. I'm sure we'll find more of those, for various reasons, right? But this particular combination of factors where it's simultaneously kind of really big, but small enough, that it's this constant threat. You could be wrong, but I'm content to say you'll never see quite the like of it again.
Yeah, its ability to maintain its long-term, to quote Dreg here, terrible gravity over years of absolute silence is the thing that makes it so decisively monstrous for this email. Like, I could see a game where in the moment it possesses a terrible, stultifying gravity that absorbs all light around it. But if that game went radio silent for 4 years, I can't think of one where it would still be just as ominous. It would still be Galactus approaching the planet. Like, it's eventually, generally speaking, time reduces the memory. And
yeah, well, if anything, it seems like it made it more powerful. It added to the gravity rather than, where a lot of it was just like, well, out of sight, out of mind. It reduces in relevance, so I really can't imagine such a thing quite like it.
I think the answer, and there is, without getting into too much detail, if you go to the Nintendo eShop webpage, you can look at games that aren't out yet, that are not coming soon. Just if you were to use your search filter, it would just be like availability, you'd not available right now. So you wouldn't check availability now. You would check like coming soon or however they word it. And you will and then you just sort it by date. You will sometimes run into games that are like scheduled for years from now, or they're just scheduled for TBD and stay there forever. Shantae's Risky Revolution is one of those games where I feel like it's had 2025 as its date for like a millennium. New World of Steam, which just lost its 2025 date, although Seren and I were making jokes about that 2025 date like in early 2025. We're like, no way.
But when it wasn't in the direct with the date, he kind of felt like he was just waiting for it to get a 26 date at that point, I think.
Yeah. Deca Police still shows up on the eShop, if you're curious. Deca Police is never going to come out in the West. It just isn't. It just isn't. But it's still there. It's still fucking there. Deca Police, the crime suspense from the developers of the Layton series. All right. I'm gonna read this to you. Current release date TBD. A mysterious detective story investigations in a virtual world. Deca Police is a crime suspense RPG from Level 5 developers of the Layton series, which will be released on Nintendo Switch in 2023.
And
Never coming.
And that's still on the website?
Still on the website is TBA date.
Sweet.
But like, it came out in Japan and flopped. We're never getting it. We're never getting it. It's still there. But yeah, like, there's no anticipation for that, which is why we're never getting it. There just isn't a corollary there, but there's definitely a comedic corollary where you could go out here and find one of these fucking games that nobody cares about. Probably it's got some kind of like kawaii beach girls in the title or some fucking bullshit, and just start referencing that. Just starts referencing that game over and over again when it never comes out. Mina the Hollower could have been there for a little bit, but that's very quickly gotten a date and a demo, so that's gone. Yeah, there's just it's so singular that we're never gonna have that well, I don't say never. Like, it is entirely possible at some point in the future.
You can't say never, but I do feel like it's just really, really super improbable.
Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remake was there for a little bit if you were in Japan, because that game got announced. It feels like forever ago.
Yeah, well, and, obviously Dragon Quest 12, like that's taking forever, but it's like, yeah, like that's probably some huge, it's a huge scope project, right? And it just keeps, snowballing on them and it just gets farther and farther out. Huge things that will happen. We kind of price that in a little bit, whereas that's the dichotomy of Silk Song is that it seems like it's kind of modest in scope, but it also blew up as well. It's very peculiar and in its own way as well. Metroid Prime 4 is just completely bizarre. We'll probably never see. We've talked about it many times with that. The bizarre set of circumstances where you announce Nintendo put a gun to their own head, to announce something Metroid, way before they normally would and should. And then you get this, grim obligations, you end up there and end up sinking way more time and effort into something than you would do just based on its economic merits. And that ends up taking a long period of time, and there we are almost at the culmination of that process. But the likelihood of something like that repeating itself is very small as well. So yeah, it's, what can we say? We're just going to have to find different running gags. I'm sure we can manage it somehow.
We'll be fine. All right. Emails. You send them. You show John who's boss. That email address is RF. Well, you can dispute that?
No, I'm fine either way. I'm saying,
So I'm trying to make you the heel here so people pay for the pay-per-view. Please. Yeah. Well. Please. I need this.
All right.
The credit card's coming due, man.
Okay.
That's RFN at NintendoWorldReport.com. RFN at NintendoWorldReport.com. You can be the improv partner I've always wished for. That's RFN at NintendoWorldReport.com. Greg, I need some music.
Yes, well, it's a bit of a tenuous link with TGS starting here, not due to anything about the actual content of the game in particular, because it's something that came out early last year. But and I don't know if at this stage there'd be any kind of announcements to do with that series or anything from TGS. I'm not necessarily expecting as such. But it has a strong Japanese kind of theming with the instrumentation and so forth to it. So I thought it was pretty good for this occasion, and it's just a very enjoyable song. So it was requested by KSO, and it's from Shirin the Wanderer 6. It's a mystery dungeon of Serpent Coil Island, which again, like I said, came out early last year. I think generally reviewed quite well. I mean, just if you're looking at screenshots and stuff, it's kind of, I would say it's kind of a shame that they haven't got the pixel art from Shirin 5 still there, because I do kind of like the look of that quite a lot more. But certainly music-wise, I think it's doing very well just on the basis of this particular song that KSO requested, which is called Sacred Ocean Tunnel. It's a really, kind of energetic, nice way to finish things off.
Awesome. All right. Well, on that, it is time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.